If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you will have heard me talk about how important it is to be across your business finances. But what you mightn't know is that being across your business finances actually makes you more money. And in today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to share with you exactly how knowing your numbers helps you to grow your numbers. If you've ever had the experience of going to pay an invoice and not even knowing if you had enough money in your business bank account, perhaps you've had the experience of going and having a meeting with your accountant, and it sounds like they're speaking a completely different language to you. Or maybe you've come up against an unexpected tax bill and it sort of came out of nowhere and you weren't even planning for it. If any of these things resonate with you, it's likely that you aren't right across your business finances. If any of this is resonating, I am so excited to share with you that I have something that can help you to become more empowered when it comes to knowing your money. Introducing the Fix Your Finances Challenge. Now, this challenge is a free 3-day challenge hosted live by myself. And inside the challenge, I'll be sharing with you why you can't just leave the money stuff to your accountant because it could be costing you dearly if you just leave it all to them. You'll realize why you avoid looking at your numbers. And a hint, it's not because you're bad at money. You will come to understand the two numbers you have to know to make sure that you never run out of cash in your business again. You will also learn the secret to being right across your business finances in as little as 15 minutes a week. And you'll become clear about how to go from confused and avoidant to being empowered, confident, and dare I say, excited about your business finances. So if you want to come join me for that live challenge, it's called Fix Your Finances, and you can join via the link in the show notes for today's episode. I hope to see you inside. But for now, let's get back to why it is so important that you need to know your numbers if you want to grow them. So the first thing that being across your business finances will empower you to do is that you'll be able to see the warning signs if things aren't going to plan. So a lot of times what happens is that we wait until the symptom or the outcome unfolds. So it might be what I spoke about a bit earlier on. You go to pay for an invoice and there's literally not enough money in your bank account. Whereas when you are being proactive, when you are staying right across your money, you will know what is coming up in your business. You have a bit of a looking glass into the future. And so there won't be those surprises happening. The cool thing about having that knowledge is that you are then able to take corrective action. So it doesn't mean that nothing will ever go wrong in your business. It just means that you are in the driver's seat and you can see, wow, okay, this is going on or this is what's coming up in my business. There's a bit of a red flag there. I'm going to need to take some new action to avoid that thing from happening. The thing is, if you don't know what's actually going on, if you're not looking into the future, if you're not staying across your numbers, you won't even have that information to hand. So what will happen is that you'll get to the point where the outcome unfolds and then you go, oh my gosh, rather than being in the driver's seat and being across it before it even unfolds, being able to make smart decisions. The next reason why you really should spend the time to get right across your money is that you want to make sure that you are fulfilling your legal obligations. Now, there's a saying, there's two things in life that are for sure, death and taxes. So we have an obligation to pay tax. And again, I'm sure there's a whole other conversation about how some people manage to avoid tax, but we're not even going to go down that path. What I want to make sure is that you are proactively putting aside your tax that you need to pay. There's no what I call tax surprise. You plan in advance and you allocate your tax separately. Another thing that you likely will have to do to fulfill your legal requirements is to pay superannuation. So if you pay yourself a wage here in Australia or in the UK, in America, it's called 401k. But basically, this is money that the government makes you put aside for saving for your retirement for the future. If you aren't in the detail of your numbers, you might not be putting this money aside. And there can be quite heavy penalties if you aren't paying your superannuation on time. Another thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is paying your staff correctly. Are you ensuring that you're paying them the right amount, that the money's coming out, that you're paying their superannuation as well? When you are across your money, you put yourself in a much more empowered place when it comes to making sure that you are fulfilling your legal requirements. Another part of this is that you can make sure that you will have enough cash to pay the suppliers that you owe money to. So if someone does some work for you and you owe them some money for it, you don't want to have that the surprise, bill surprise when the invoice gets sent to you. You want to be sitting there going, I know what's happening. I know what's coming up in my business, and I've got a plan in place for it. If you don't pay your bills, if you don't pay your tax, you are likely to end up in a legal situation. So you really want to avoid that at all costs. The next thing that being right across those business finances gives you is the opportunity to identify money leaks. Now, a money leak is money that is disappearing out of your business bank account without you intentionally spending it that way. Now, someone might even be stealing money from you. And if you aren't checking your business bank accounts, you might not know that. And you might think, well, I would know. A lot of times, what people do when they're committing fraud is they actually start with really small amounts and see if people notice. So the only way that you can pick up on potential fraudulent activity, the way that you can stay across, scope creep, maybe you have suppliers and their prices keep going up. Maybe you have subscriptions that you're not even using anymore that you need to cancel. And the best way that you can make sure that you aren't spending money without intention, without purpose, is to be in the detail of it. This is your hard-earned money. So you want to make sure that it's not disappearing or leaking out your bucket. You want to make sure that you're really going, yes, cool, I was aware of those expenses. And that's something that I really intentionally want to invest money in my business. Just a reminder that when you reduce your expenses, so when you find something, you go, whoa, whoops, I didn't mean for that to be happening, or you go back and negotiate a new contract or something like that, that actually improves your profitability. So just a quick basic refresher, your profit is your sales or your revenue minus your expenses. So there's two ways that you can grow your profit. It is either by increasing your sales or by decreasing your expenses. And the example that we just spoke about there is a way that you decrease your expenses. Even if you aren't selling anything more, if you find some costs that you are able to cut, that actually grows your bottom line or your profit, which is the money that you get to keep. Well, after tax. The next thing that you will uncover when you truly get into your money, your finances, is that you will start to notice trends and you will either be able to take corrective action around it, or you'll be able to capitalize on upcoming opportunities. So let me share some examples of what this might look like. When you become really familiar with your financials, when you look at them regularly, you'll start to notice patterns. I know in my own business, one of the patterns that I've noticed is that over Christmas, the January period, I tend to have a slower time in my business. I've got young kids and they're at home. We're kind of doing the, Christmas holiday juggle thing. And it can be challenging to be performing at the rate that you are the rest of the year. And quite aside from the fact that a lot of people in their own businesses are, taking the foot off the pedal as well at that time of year. Or perhaps you're the complete opposite. Maybe you have a retail type business or maybe a service business that's in high demand during that period of time at the end of the year. I used to work in retail, and that December was our biggest month of the year. So again, when you've got that knowledge, when you are empowered with that knowledge, you can then start to make decisions around, well, what am I going to do about this? So, for example, I can say, do you know what? I'm actually not really happy to have a slow December, January anymore. And I could say, even though I'm going to be juggling the kids, I want to do a launch or a promo during that period of time. That could be absolutely something that I plan to do moving forward. Or alternatively, you might say, you know what? I really want to take my boom times and make them even bigger. I don't want to, have to do extra things during the lower times. I just kind of accept that, through the Christmas period, I'm going to be taking a bit more of a chill pace. But that means that I want to make my launch activity or my sales activity at other times of the year much bigger. So how do you do that? Again, you look at the data, you look at your numbers. When you're really familiar with your position, your profitability, and your cash flow position, you are able to make more educated decisions around investments. Sometimes you are hamstringing your growth by not investing back into the business. I've been a mentor for over 8 years now, and I see people at all different parts of the extremes. Some people have a ton of money sitting in their account. And I think, oh my gosh, you could grow the business so much quicker if you invested in marketing or team or strategy or whatever it might be. On the flip side, sometimes people are really struggling with their cash position and their profitability. So again, wherever you're at, having that knowledge puts you in the driver's seat. It might give you the confidence to say, do you know what? Now that I'm really familiar with my money, I know that I've got a big buffer there and I can really lean in and invest to skyrocket my growth. Having that knowledge gives you the power to make those decisions. The next cool thing about being right across your numbers is having power in your negotiations. So, an example of this, it's very hard to negotiate if you don't have all of the information available to you. So, for example, let's say that you do work with someone and you've been working with them for a number of years, and the volume of work that you're doing with them is increasing. What you can then do is say, hey, 2 years ago, you used to do this many hours for me, or this was our arrangement. But the amount of work that we are doing together has grown by 50%. And I'd like to negotiate a new rate. See how much more power there is in that than just coming and saying, hi, I want to negotiate a new rate, just for the sake of it. When you've got the data to hand, it is a really great negotiating tool. Knowledge is power. And this is one of the real reasons that being right across your business finances is very empowering. Another thing that you can do, and again, this is one of the other pros of being a master of the numbers inside your business, is that you can use numbers for your data analysis to make educated decisions in your business. Now, I'm all for intuition, following your gut, but there's also so much wisdom to be found through the actual cold, hard data or the facts. One of the ways that I use data-driven information to make decisions in my business is by having a look at what is resonating with my audience. So every month, me and my beautiful assistant, Sally, sit down and we look at the stats for my business. We say, which emails were people opening? What was the open rate? What was the click-through rate? Why? We look at our social media statistics and we say, okay, this kind of content is where we're getting the most views. This is where we're getting the most likes or engagement. Let's create more content like that because that is what's resonating. So when we talk about knowing your numbers, this is the kind of stuff that really makes you go, wow, okay, cool. We are making smart decisions based on facts. One of the things that James Wedmore says, he goes, success leaves clues. And I love that little saying, success leaves clues. So look at the breadcrumbs. Look at what they are telling you. I know for me, when we would sit down and look at our numbers of what was performing on my Instagram, Sally would say to me, she's like, Claire, people love when you dance in your reels. And I was like, well, we've got to give the people what they want. So you can actually use that knowledge to improve your marketing, to improve your reach, and in turn, of course, grow your sales and grow your profit, as compared to just flying blind and, hoping for the best. There's a saying that I heard recently, and I absolutely love it. You might have seen it in my marketing if you follow me on Instagram, but it's not magic, it's math. And this is the power of numbers. Use the knowledge to create better outcomes in your business. So hopefully, I've started to show you today a number of reasons why you really should be right across your finances. It's not just about being more confident and having clarity about what's going on. It's actually about making you more money, more profit. And ultimately, that's why we're in business, to make a profit. So I really, really encourage you to start to think about how you can get started on becoming empowered in the space of your business finances. Now, if you aren't sure where to get started, as I mentioned at the start, I'd love to invite you to come and join my free 3-day challenge, which is called Fix Your Finances. This is a brilliant place to get started on your financial empowerment journey. I'll be teaching it live, and there are 2 times each day for your convenience. I would really love for you to come along and start to learn the basics of how you can become more empowered with your finances, because ultimately, as we spoke about in today's episode, if you know your numbers, you are able to grow your numbers. Hope to see you inside the challenge. Again, you can join via the link in the show notes for today's episode. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Clarewood podcast. From the bottom of my heart, I deeply appreciate you being here and listening, for sharing the podcast episodes you like on your social media, and also for taking the time to leave me a review. I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful. Thanks for tuning in, and I will chat to you again next week.